six-figure ad campaign launched by an advocacy group founded by former Vice President Mike Pence looks to derail RFK Jr.'s nomination. Details of the ad campaign, first shared with The Hill, reveal the plan that Advancing American Freedom has in place over the next several weeks as Kennedy awaits his confirmation hearing. Plus, Pete Hegseth's former sister-in-law describes new accusations against the defense secretary hopeful in a sworn affidavit. Joining me now to talk more about it all is The Hill's staff writer, Niall Stanage. So Niall, let's first talk about the RFK Jr. ad. It's coming from a group founded by former Vice President Mike Pence, includes some other former Trump people like Mark Short, right? Why are they going after RFK?
Well, I think several reasons, but for one of the reasons that pertains to sort of the former Vice President's social conservatism is that they're going after RFK Jr. on his position on abortion, which is broadly pro-choice. They're then welding that onto all the more controversial opinions for which he is better known, specifically regarding skepticism, to put it mildly, about vaccines, his suggestion that there is some link between vaccines and autism, which is a theory that has been disproven or debunked quite a long time ago. So they're trying to fuse those two sort of arguments together.
Do you think that they might go after some of the other nominees as well?
I don't think so, because I think in relation to, if it is a reflection of Pence's personal views, obviously he's someone who really is rooted in the religious right or religious conservatism, and so I think the abortion issue is a particularly important one to
number one to them. All right, so regarding Pete Hegseth, lots to talk about here. There's a new bombshell affidavit from his former sister-in-law who alleges that there has been some alcohol abuse and details an escape plan that was made by his second ex-wife. And those allegations have certainly made waves through the Senate. Take a listen to what Hawaii's Senator Hirono had to say about those allegations.
What the affidavit does is to reconfirm that Hegseth is not fit to serve. And so this is not an anonymous smear. There's a name attached to the statements.
Now, I do want to point out that his second ex-wife denies these allegations. It's just the former sister-in-law that has made them. But, I mean, at this point, there have been many accusations made against him, but they've sort of rolled off his back, it seems like at this point. Do you think that this allegation could make a difference?
No, I don't. And I think that the reason it couldn't make a difference is because the ex-wife has been so clear-cut in saying that no abuse took place within the marriage. There's no way that you make that allegation stick if the person who is the alleged victim is saying it didn't happen. Now, there are admittedly broader allegations about excessive drinking and so forth that are contained in this affidavit, but I see no chance at all of that dissuading Republican senators from voting for him.
Right, I think most people probably would agree with that. Some of Trump's pardons stunned Republicans on Capitol Hill, in particular regarding the January 6th insurrection. And police organizations are going after the president, saying it sends a very dangerous message. And Trump had this to say when asked why he would pardon why he let someone go who was charged with tasing a police officer. Listen.
Murderers today are not even charged. You have murderers that aren't charged all over.
So given that that is his response, do you think that the rest of the GOP will be able to message their way out of this one? I'm not even sure how they approach defending that decision.
So there are two separate questions there. One is the logic that President Trump is offering there to defend the decision, and the other question is what the Republican Party writ large does about it. I don't think it is a strong argument, to put it mildly, that to complain that because there is leniency in the president's opinion to some people involved in other crimes, that then justifies pardons for people who were in some cases convicted of seditious conspiracy and in other cases were convicted of assaulting police officers on January the 6th. So I think the strength of his argument is very, very limited. I also think the strength of his hold on the Republican Party is very, very strong. And so it is notable that we haven't seen that many Republican senators speak out against those pardons, or Republican House members for that matter, which I think points to the fact that the Republican Party, at least in terms of its election officials, would just prefer to move past this issue if they possibly can.
Right, that's a good point. They're trying to avoid speaking about it at all, regardless about forming some sort of unified message on it. Trump also announced a pardon for Silk Road founder Ross Ulbricht, seen as a nod to libertarians, which he was very happy to have their support in this election. Also, I guess, to the crypto community, too, which has very much embraced Trump. What do you make of that pardon?
Well, it was something that the president had said he was going to do, or strongly implied he was going to do when he was a candidate. The particulars of the case get rather complicated once you move beyond the Silk Road suggestion, because there was an allegation that was never proven that Ulbricht had been involved in trying to basically solicit murder. I mean, that was the other
Right.
part of this. His supporters say that was all a frame-up and the charges were never pressed in a court on that matter. It's a morally complicated case. Supporters would argue he was only providing a marketplace, and critics would contend, look, he was supplying a marketplace for illicit dealings, including drugs. And it's interesting that some of the criticism I see from this on the non-libertarian right is being viewed very much through the lens of drug use and abuse.
Right, and so much of that is wrapped up in the anonymity of cryptocurrency, which has surged in popularity, so just further complicates the case. It will be interesting to see what he does next. Now I want to ask you about John Bolton, because Trump removed his Secret Service detail, and he was asked about it. Take a listen to what he said.
You take a job, you want to do a job. We're not going to have security on people for the rest of their lives. Why should we? I thought he was a very dumb person, but I used him well, because every time people saw me come into a meeting with John Bolton standing behind me, they thought that he'd attack them because he was a warmonger.
Standard Trump response, but Bolton responded saying on X that there are still threats against him that he's pointing out. Considering that, do you think, I mean, is this normal to remove protections for people that formerly served, or is this simply a political ploy?
So the protection that was in place for John Bolton was there for a specific reason, which was a specific threat from Iran to kill him. And this goes back to the killing of a senior Iranian during the Trump administration. I think the argument for keeping it is Bolton is in danger because of actions that were part of his official duties. And whether you like those actions or not, you can't leave people vulnerable for what they did when they were in a position of power. Trump is making a different argument, which seems to largely revolve around Trump's own taking of umbrage against Bolton's later criticisms. I think it's hard to justify that as the rationale for removing protection from someone.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see if it happens to anyone else in this or under this administration, or anyone else from his former administration. Niall Stanage, thank you so much.
Thank you.
President Trump's ties to the tech industry were on full display Tuesday. Flanked by the leaders of OpenAI, Oracle, and SoftBank, Trump announced a new joint venture between the three companies called Stargate that he says will invest $500 billion into artificial intelligence and create more than 100,000 jobs nationwide. To break down the details of this new joint venture, we're bringing in The Hill's tech reporter, Miranda Nazzaro. Miranda, thanks for joining us. $500 billion and 100,000 jobs sounds pretty ambitious. So can you walk us through what that investment will look like, and also what these companies hope to accomplish with Stargate?
Right, yeah. So as you mentioned, the initial equity investors are going to be the three main OpenAI, Oracle, and SoftBank, which is a Japanese tech investment firm. Now, they're not the only investors in this project. There are also well-known companies like Microsoft, MGX, which is a Middle East AI firm, that will be in this project as well. So while those three companies are going to be the main players in this, they're basically all hoping to just build more AI infrastructure. And what this looks like is data centers. AI needs a lot of energy to work, to develop, and then actually work. So when you send something on ChatGPT, for example, that is requiring much more energy than any normal computer devices that we've had before. So building this infrastructure over the next 4 years is going to help meet that high energy demand. And then most of the project is going to be taking place in Texas, where they've already apparently began building some of these sites.
Well, shortly after Trump announced the partnership, Elon Musk sort of undercut that announcement, saying in a post that there wasn't enough money for it. And then he followed up by saying that SoftBank only had $10 billion secured, which is a fraction of a percent of the $500 billion investment that Trump had promised. So What do you make of Musk's comments? Is this a bad sign for Stargate?
Right, so we all know at this point that Elon Musk is a very close ally of Trump, and we're seeing within days of his administration starting that Musk is sort of breaking from his leader at this point, and it's unclear exactly why he's doing it, why he's making those statements. From those who I've talked to today, it seems like SoftBank is not in trouble. There is plenty of money there. A source familiar with Stargate told me today that they've already committed to the $100 billion, and between their investments, equity, debt, there's absolutely no problem in reaching that $100 billion. Some were quick to say it has to do with Elon Musk's ongoing feud with Sam Altman, who is the co-founder of OpenAI, which Musk also helped found. So it could be maybe he feels left out, not a part of it, or it could just be part of this ongoing feud. Sam Altman eventually responded on X saying, respectfully, you're wrong. You can come visit some of the sites that have already started to be built in Texas. So it remains to be seen if Trump is going to respond well to this. It's somebody within his own orbit now, kind of breaking with this, what he believed was a very positive, optimistic future and announcement for AI.
It'll be interesting to see what happens. Miranda Nazzaro, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Netflix shares have soared to a record high, rising 13% after the streaming service started a live sports expansion. The company added 18.9 million subscribers in the holiday quarter, sizing up their already notable subscription numbers over competitors. The streaming giant also introduced price hikes on Tuesday in the United States and other markets. Netflix's global subscriber count now tops 300 million, with its market capitalization worth around $370 billion. A major winter storm slams Texas and paralyzes the northern Gulf Coast, spreading heavy snow, sleet, and freezing rain across the Florida Panhandle and eastern Carolinas. News Nation's Xavier Walton has the latest on this historic snowfall.
Hey Bianca, sun is up. Thankfully it has stopped snowing as well here in Houston. But those travel troubles, those still remain. And we're really talking about delays and cancellations. The two major airports here in Houston closed down for more than 24 hours. They've now gotten back and restored service. However, the effects still being felt, obviously. We're also talking about dangerous driving conditions along the south. We're going to talk about the I-10 corridor east of Houston. This is around the Lake Charles area, which saw some of the most snow it's seen in decades. The National Weather Service issuing its first ever blizzard warning for southern Louisiana. On top of the snow, you had strong winds whipping through southern states. Video from Georgia, when you see cars sliding, drivers having a hard time control their vehicles. That's what officials are really worried about. Even further east, snow-covered highways stretching all the way to Florida. Snow and ice blanketed parts of the Florida Panhandle. Governor Ron DeSantis declaring a state of emergency. Several other southern states, doing the exact same thing because of what millions of people were having to deal with. Take a listen.
This is absolutely crazy. Trees completely covered, winds blowing. Looked like a blizzard out here.
And rightfully so, it did look like a blizzard. I mean, you look at them, these are record-setting, going back decades. The one that stands out to me, at least, Bianca, is Pensacola Beach in Florida. Look at all that snow. That's why state and local leaders now saying the biggest problem in the coming days is dangerous driving conditions.
The freeway conditions are the thing that are the biggest concern. The slushy part, for someone who's never driven in snow or on ice and stuff like that, that's the major concern.
And officials across 8 states saying do the same thing. Stay off the roads if you can, especially in the next 48 hours, where anything, if it did melt, has the potential of refreezing. The temperatures are going to be hovering around the 20s, low 20s, and the teens, Bianca.
News Nation's Xavier Walton, thank you. That's today's Daily Debrief. I'm Bianca Facchinei. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to The Hill's YouTube channel, and come back here soon for the intersection between politics and policy.